Okay, thank you all for coming this morning. The rain will hopefully hold out, and maybe if we keep the cloud cover, it won't get too hot. But we're here for our July meeting. Thank you for coming. We have our town supervisor as our guest today. She'll say a few words. That's whatever she wants to speak about, and then there'll be an opportunity for everyone to ask any questions that of concern to them as well. So, Supervisor Jackie Annabi, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Hi everyone, good morning. Glad that we're on a Saturday. So usually when I'm off it rains, so this is a good thing that it's not. But thank you all for being here. Just a few things I wanted to touch base with is our budget dates. Our budget is, the first budget date is going to be August 19th. Then the final one will be September 9th. So have your needs list and wish list together and come to our budget meeting at Town Hall. We start at 9 a.m. All right, we'll be getting that list out to you, the times and everything for each district. You'll be getting that shortly. It'll also be on our website very soon. The dam. So I'll be posting in the newspaper this week that the dam has been, the architect and the design of it has been completed and approved by the DEC. That has to be put in the paper for 1 week, and then you guys can go out to bid. So once that's done, then we can take that package and take it out to bid and get some prices on what it'll do to repair it. Short-term rentals. All right, so I'm just gonna put this down because it's gonna be a while for that one. All right, so short-term rentals, by New York State definition, is any rental that's less than 30 days. If it's more than 30 days, you're considered a permanent tenant, and it will take you court order to evict them. So by New York State law, short-term rentals are anything that's rented under 30 days. Our code does not have anything of that statute, except for a tourist cabin, which is under hotels and motels in our book. So we are having a public hearing on July 19th to regulate short-term rentals. The regulations that we took are from the city of Lloyd, New York. Their short-term rental code really works well. Their community is a lot like our community, bedroom-style community. You can take a look at our regulations on our website, putnamvalley.gov. Go down and it'll say proposed short-term rental codes. Some of the things that we are putting in there is that each short-term rental must have a home rule that must be posted on the home, and also into the home to check for fire and safety hazards. Make sure there's fire extinguishers, make sure that everything is up to code, things like that. It's also bedroom count. We have a bunch of currently on the market for short-term rentals. A 2-bedroom, for example, that sleeps 15. That's not possible. In New York State, the bedroom count must match your septic. It can't be anything other than that. And short-term rentals, their companies, Verbo, Airbnb, Minute, all of them, will abide by our regulations. If the host disregards our regulations, they will be booted off their site. So that's a benefit to the community. It's also, a lot of these hosts are super hosts, so they do want regulations. They just don't know what they are. So they want to know what they can and cannot do, but right now they don't know. So if it is a 2-bedroom house, the town can say, okay, the maximum you can put in here, depending on the size of the bedroom, because New York State also has a per person space that's required in each room. I don't know that off the top of my head. I have to double check that. So if you have 2 bedrooms, you might be able to put 4 people in each bedroom. That's just saying if it's a large enough bedroom. So maximum the town will allow for a short-term rental with 2 bedrooms would be 8 people, maximum. Because the septic only goes by the number. So we can't say, originally what I was going to do, which if we were on a sewer system, you can, is any sleeping area would be considered a bedroom. A couch, in other words, you have a couch or a futon, you can now make that a bedroom, and what the town would have done is charged you for each one of those. It doesn't work that way in this area because we are on septic, not sewer. So, because we're on septic, the size of your tank coincides with the number of bedrooms, not the number of people in a house. So that's how we have to do it here in Putnam County. So we were the first town in Putnam County to actually get the all short-term rentals taxed. So now anyone, even if they're before our regulations, we're submitting all that to the law department for these short-term rentals. When they, just like you go to a hotel, you pay a tax. It's not the homeowner paying the tax, it's the guest that pays the tax. That tax will now come to the town, and that'll help offset these charges of having to monitor and enforce these laws that we're putting forward. So we were the first town to do this. I'm very grateful to our governor and to our senator and assemblyman who helped push that through. And we're also going to be the first town in Putnam County to have regulations for short-term rentals. So the other towns want to copy it if our regulations pass. Like I said, please take a look at them. There's a lot of good questions that people are coming forward with. I'd like you all to hear these questions and concerns on both ends, both the host and then people who live next door. One of the situations was parties. Airbnb bans parties. If there's a complaint of an Airbnb having a party, that complaint can go to the short-term rental sites, and then that person is then fined, and if they get too many complaints, will be booted off their site. These people look to make money. That's their purpose of doing the short-term rentals. They don't want to violate anything. If they don't know, they don't know. So our job as a town supervisor, the town board, is to make sure everyone knows there are regulations, which is the reason why we're trying to push this through. Encourage it to be put through. So that's why I'm encouraging you all to please read them. If you can't come to the meeting, watch it online, watch it live streamed, read the code, and then send me an email, and we'll answer those questions at the meeting. Okay? I really encourage you to please all do that. Any questions about short-term rentals?
Yes. Is it possible to send the board something in advance and then schedule an appearance to speak, or how do we speak at the meeting?
We will have public comment will be on July 19th.
Right.
So you just show up.
Okay.
Show up, and there'll be a sign-in list, and I will have people come up and talk about it in order as they arrive.
If I send something in advance, if it's not two owners, you'll read it.
If it's more than 3 minutes, I will not read it. It'll be on part of the public record.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
One thing that I saw, there were notices about time for, for noise, like after 5 or something. And it strikes me, if that isn't the same as we have as homeowners, I don't think it's constitutional.
The noise ordinance we have in our town will be stated in the regulations. So
It's
no,
gonna be the same for
same thing.
residents,
No mowing on the lawn before 8 a.m. on the weekday, mowing before 9 a.m. on a weekend, no noise after 10 p.m. during the week, 11 p.m. on a weekend.
So in the ordinance,
It's in the regulations. It shows that it
5
will.
p.m. in the ordinance.
No, it's not.
It's like 5 or 8. Anyway, I think you just need to make
Our
sure that it's the
code
same for-
is actually stated in the regulations. It says, please see noise ordinance, and it has the code. So it's in there. Also, the septic pump out law is also stated, so that you have to abide by our septic pump out law. So those things are in the regulations that the host must abide by. These things are easy to enforce by our code enforcement officer, our deputy code enforcement officer, and our building department. They're easily to enforce. The noise will be enforced by our sheriff's department. The parking will be enforced by our sheriff's department. We don't have control over the roadway, only the sheriff's department does. And that's whether it's a regular person or an Airbnb or a short-term rental. Doesn't make a difference. So as a neighbor, if they are blocking the roadways for first responder, no one wants to rat out their neighbor, I get that. But if they're blocking the roadway, all they have to do is call the sheriff and say, listen, they're blocking the roadway. You're not going to be ticketed or violated. The sheriff will just say, please move the cars, or please lower the volume. Please take it down a notch. No one's going to be arrested, but if the sheriff doesn't know it's happening, they can't help enforce it and help you guys have a comfortable environment to live in. So it is all about communication, okay? Yes.
Jackie, clarification of the occupancy. It seems that the septic system capacity is a better indicator of how many people the house can safely hold than the number of bedrooms, because
New York State goes by the number of bedrooms. That's how your septic system is based on. Your septic is based on the number of bedrooms in a house in New York State, not the number of people residing in a home. There's no other way around that.
but many of our septic systems are undersized because they're old and obsolete. You might have a 700-gallon septic
Then
tank.
your house should not be more bedrooms than the septic allows. So again, that goes back to, if you're doing an Airbnb and you have a 3-bedroom house and your septic is only coded for a 2-bedroom house, you will not be able to Airbnb a 3-bedroom house. So it all goes back to that code. So if you have a 3-bedroom house and you don't have a permit with the town, because the only way to get a 3-bedroom house is to have a permit with the town, and that means your septic was approved for a 3-bedroom house. So that's where it all goes into having the house up to date, coded by our code enforcement and our building inspector. Any other questions?
Jackie, I'm really pleased that you're going to do this. I think it's really needed and worthy. We were particularly pleased about the cap that you were thinking of putting on it, where there's a certain number. And I just wanted to point out from the point of view of everybody here that Airbnbs,
You have to call them short-term rentals, because
short-term rentals, burden tends to fall in disproportionately on the lake communities. That's where most
Yes,
of them are.
that is correct.
So could the quota be made in some way that it would reflect that it could be for the communities rather than for the whole town?
You can't do that, because then you're selective enforcement. So I can't say, Ina, you can have 2, but you can only have 1. I can't do that. But what I can do, legally, if Ina has 3 homes in her name, I can say, Ina, you can only put 2 in your name that are Airbnb. That is the only thing that's legally able to do. So now across the board, everyone's allowed to have only 2 Airbnbs. No corporations. If you're an LLC or a corporation or an entity of that sort, you cannot have an Airbnb.
Will there be, maybe I was misunderstanding, will there be a cap for the number of short-term rentals for the town of Putnam Valley?
No, because that'll be selective enforcement. However, if we find that 90% of our population is not a short-term rental or are coming in as permits for that, it is up to the zoning board, who are state regulated, to determine, okay, we are capped at 30%, we're not doing any more Airbnbs in Putnam Valley. Because the zoning board is the only one that is fully regulated by the state. So they can make that legally decision.
The zoning board could put a cap, and that cap would be for the whole population.
For the town of Putnam Valley, correct. Right
You
now,
understand my concern about it?
I do understand your concern. And I gotta tell you, as many as you think you have in Roaring Brook, you don't have as many as Abley or Lake
Or
Peekskill.
Lake Peekskill, right.
However, all together, all the short-term rentals that are registered on the websites, and like I said, these people go to these websites because that's how they make their money. They don't do it privately because they don't make the money that way. They go to these websites. In Putnam Valley, we have 29. That's it. 29 homes that are registered.
Do you know
So-
how many are in Roaring Brook? by any chance?
I have to break it up by town, which won't be hard at all. But the whole town is 29.
And I have one other question. For the short-term rentals, let's say it's Airbnb. You were talking about the taxes. Is Airbnb, I guess they include that in the price, and then they collect the tax
Yep,
from
and
them.
they send it to our clerk.
And they send it to
Our clerk.
send it to your clerk. Those taxes, those funds, are they for our district only?
No, you can't do it that way. You can't do it that way because it'll go towards helping to reduce the cost of enforcement. So if we do have to have Patty, who is an hourly person, for example, have to come in on a weekend, it'll help offset those costs. So these kinds of things, this additional funding will help offset any costs to the town to maintain, enforce these kind of laws.
Do you know what the tax is? What percent?
4%.
4%. You can raise it?
We can't raise it unless we go back to the state.
I had a question on bedroom count, because legally a bedroom is a room, I think 84 square feet plus with a closet. But there are people with 90 square foot rooms and no closet, and it's a library.
That's not considered a bedroom by our code
I
enforcement.
know, but it could,
So when the code enforcement officer, if you want to do a short-term rental, you will fill out the application, our code enforcement officer will come to the house. He'll say, this is not a bedroom under New York state law. You cannot use this, A, in the town because it's illegal, But for Airbnb or for short-term rental purposes, you cannot count that for a bedroom. So they would have to now, and I'm having actually this same conversation with an actual short-term rental in Abley Park. They are a Cape, 1 bedroom. They converted their washer and dryer room, they pulled their washer and dryer out and made it a bedroom. And now they're doing a short-term rental for a 2-bedroom. We had to stop it altogether. A, it's dangerous, but B, because you can't do a short-term rental for 2 bed, because she wants to start moving forward to get these regulations moving. So she removed her 2-bedroom Airbnb, made it a 1-bedroom, but is able to put up to 4 people in that 1 bedroom because it's pretty big. But if it's a small bedroom, you might not be able to put 4 people. You might be able to do 3 people, and that's up to our code enforcement officer based on the size of each bedroom. So he will put a capacity on the number of people allowed in your home for short-term rental purposes.
So if you live next door to somebody that has a short-term rental and you see 3 cars pulling in and you know it's listed as a 2-bedroom, but you see more people than that, you would call the code enforcer then and say,
Once they're permitted, yes.
yeah.
But I mean, part of the home rule, the house rules, will be no additional guests other than those registered or paying for that home.
So the person that regulates that and enforces that would be the code
Would be the
enforcer.
short-term rental and us, because once we get that complaint, they might not be allowed to renew. So if that one person has more than 2 complaints or multiple complaints, their permit can A, be revoked, and B, they can never get renewed again for 5 years. That's also part of the regulations.
Thank you very much.
Jackie, I wanted to just reiterate my question before, because you just said that if someone had a large bedroom, they could put 4 people in it, but they may have a septic system that's only good for 2 people. So
I understand that concern, but New York State says we cannot limit, you can't base it on the number of people in a house. So they have to go by the bedroom. And a bedroom, we don't know if it depends on the size of the bedroom. So if the size of the bedroom is large enough to hold 4 people safely and comfortably, then that's how they have to abide by it. They can't. What if you were a regular family, mother, father, and had 2 kids? Now what? You're going to say that you can't live in that house anymore? I mean, the Board of Health in New York State says the septic will go by the number of bedrooms, and I guess the way they figure it is there's a capacity based on the size.
So will you be asking on the application how big the septic tank is, how big the septic
Well, we have
is?
that with our septic pump out laws.
You have that information?
Yeah, and that's all part of the study with the Board of Health. It's not going to be a complex application, but it's also not going to be, all right, give me your name, address, and on your merry way. They have to do full code and building and safety inspections, which includes the septic. Okay?
Obviously, that's a concern to us here in the Lake.
Of course, but you also have to remember, any one of us have multiple guests in our home on any weekend day. Whether it's, every other weekend, which is probably safer than having a guest at your house all summer long. Like many of us do. I mean, my kids are home from school. I can't tell you who's at my house right now. I have no idea. But that's what happens when school ends until school begins. And that's a normal house. Now, with an Airbnb or a short-term rental in that matter, they're renting out for short spurts. So there might actually be better than what we're doing. But I can't say that. I'm just giving you an example. So they might not be abusing it as much as we think they are because they're not renting it out. Their rental amount is 40% of the time based on the study, on the report we have. So the 29 rentals are rented out 40% of the time. We're living it 100% of the time. So who's really using the septic more? So that's just something you need to think about. Okay? They're not here, they're not here to abuse our neighborhoods. They are looking for a second income, but they're also looking for regulations to stay happy in our community. Yes.
Do they have to do, does the owner have to do a new application with every new renter?
No, the permit is every year. And then, I'm sorry, the permit's every year. So every year, that way we have a right to know if there's been abuse or not. So, that's going to be part of the procedure to make sure that there's still, the fire extinguisher is still in place, the CO2 is still in place, that they didn't add another bedroom without us knowing. So there will be an inspection every year for anyone who wants to do a short-term rental.
And how are they going to monitor the renting?
They have to do a permit. So
For
what happens is we send our codes over to short-term rental sites, their legal department. Their legal department uses the zip codes and say, okay, you're renting, you need to abide by these before we even put you on our website. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these short-term rental sites want to work with communities because they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They don't want to lose communities. So they want to abide by our regulations. So once we put our regulations in place, they will abide by what our town says, which is great. And if the host disregards their short-term rental policy, those companies are now removed from the websites.
But if the host already has a permit, does the town know how often
They can get a
it's
permit.
rented?
Oh, their permit expires. Just like if
No,
you
I
were
mean-
doing work on your house, your permit expires. We know when your permit expires. So if your permit expires and you're still doing the thing, you will be violated $1,000 a day.
No, I mean, if you have a valid permit, does the town know whether or not you've done the rental?
You can't get the permit without us.
Right, but the town doesn't monitor how many times I rented out.
That makes no difference. You have that permit for 1 year.
Okay.
And the permit says you can have this many people for, and you have to tell us you're going to be renting from May to October.
Oh, okay.
And so those dates, not exact dates, and then also, your average cost. Is it going to be $200 a night or $400 a night? Because that also determines on the tax rate we get.
This conversation just reiterates and reinforces the importance of the septic pump out rules, and I think we're all, I don't want to speak
I
for
gotta tell you,
everybody,
the
but I
town
feel really
as a
happy that
whole
we've
has
done
been very good with following up on our septic letters. I send out a letter constantly to all the residents who are due, and there's always a handful of people who will give a hard time, but that's life. But majority has really been following up. They've been doing their septic pump out. I've been getting the reports. So I gotta tell you, the letters do help. They do remind. I don't think people want to not do it. I think they just forget. But yeah, I think it's very helpful.
And I think we're at 5 years now, right?
Roaring Brook is,
Every 5 years.
yeah.
Every 5
We
years.
recommend 3. We recommend 3, I believe, right? 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, the septic also recommends
It-
3.
the, The amount of your septic pump out, we were actually told by artisans that it really shouldn't be less than 3. It's not good for the septic to be pumped out that often. If you guys want to change the code to 3 years for your district, you just got to let us know. We will have a code written up, and we'll have a public hearing done, and we can do that. But we have to let the whole district know what's going on again. It's a process. Let's get through the short-term rentals first, then we do the septic pump out. Okay? They have to be 3. That's a New York State law.
No, it was a New York State law when they were
They still are a 303D. They still are an impaired lake.
I believe they're off the list.
Nope, they're still a 303D, and with that, the state had them be a septic pump out for those that are in the Lake Oscawana. So it's the watershed, and anyone in the Lake Oscawana district must pump out every 3 years.
So, in other words, we would love to be the same as Lake Oscawana, but maybe we will approach that at a different.
Yeah, let's get this one, because it is a lot of work to do it. It's not a problem, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure we're up to date on it.
Yeah, one thing, Ina, there are a lot of people here that are summer residents. They don't use the house that much. Maybe they have 1 or 2 people in the house, so every 3 years might be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think every 5 years is good. I
5
pump
years
mine
is
out every
working.
3 years, but
5
you
years
know,
is working for your
yeah,
district.
5 years is working. Keep it. If you want to do it earlier, do it. I do it 3, but 5 I think is fine.
Yeah, 5 years has been working for this district. People have been following the code, and I haven't seen anybody really abusing it here in Roaring Brook. Oh, absolutely.
Some of us may just write the check and it's not a second. It's expensive.
No, absolutely.
So I
Very
think that
expensive.
it reserves a discussion, and I don't think we should.
It's definitely a conversation for a later date. The 5-year plan is definitely working for your district. You're probably one of the lakes that have remained open in the last 2 years that have a septic pump out plan. I've had issues in Lake Oscawana, especially Abley Park area, which is congested a lot like Lake Peekskill. Lake Peekskill unfortunately has been closed a lot last year and still remains closed this year because of the congestion. No fields. In Roaring Brook, you have very large acreage, a lot of fields. Your fields are healthy. We don't have that in certain areas where 3 years is required or suggested. But that was because of natural, that had nothing to do with your septic from what I understand, especially because of the Canadian fires this year. That had a lot to do with that. The rain coming down caused that countrywide, those closures. They believe it came from the Canadian fires, and when the rain came in, dropping down the phosphorus and the nitrogen, which caused those HABs, is what I'm being told. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's the story they're saying, and that's what they're sticking with.
Phosphorus and nitrogen, that's what comes from wherever.
Right. Any other questions about short-term rentals?
No, thank you. That's, I think, a great thing you're doing.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there any other questions that I can? I know there were some questions about the walkway. You all saw the plans. The guy's going to be starting probably the end of this month. One of the concerns is what if it doesn't work? This design was designed by the town engineer. That's his job. His job is to make sure the drain happens the right way. I know in the past you weren't happy with the contractor, but that was not done by our engineer. That was a suggestion that came from the district, and it's on record saying he doesn't agree with what was happening. This was actually done by our town engineer. He came out, he walked it with the construction guy, and they know exactly what they're doing. If for any reason it doesn't hold up, yeah, we'll have them come back and repair it. But other than that, the walkway should be done. It will take away a lot of the damage that's happening to that route. And he's competent. The guy's a good guy. He works really hard. They know what they're doing. And like I said, he's been working very closely with Todd, who's our engineer. Todd will also be coming out to check on him as he's doing it.
So for the benefit of the audience, they're not all privy to the designs. It was only the board. So why don't you describe what we're going to do?
They're going to be doing a pavement down there with an epoxy with sand or grit. That's going to prevent the slipping. But you'll probably, the best way to describe it is if anyone's been to any sort of water park, that is regular pavement with an epoxy with a grit. So the ground doesn't get hot and the grit prevents slipping. So that design will help with the cooling so people can walk up and down it. It's also going to be having a drainage and a curve to it to bring down any sort of water that comes into a drain that they're creating down there.
What walkway?
This sand pebbled walkway. Yep.
Jackie, is it blacktop pavement underneath?
Yes.
Blacktop.
Is there going to be any like little culverts?
Yep.
Like we have here to
Yep,
have the
it's going to
rain,
be
so it
drained,
doesn't
and
go.
they're actually putting Belgian blocks to prevent the deterioration and the drainage, so it'll all be
So it'll go off to the side.
off to
every
the
so
side into the
often
drain that he's creating.
to
Yeah,
slow it down. Great. Okay.
and it'll prevent pooling because the way it's designed, and the Belgian blocks will also prevent any sort of pooling. It'll direct it down that way. It'll divert it. Any other questions?
I'm just wondering if you have an update on the stores at the entrance to our community?
So the proposed brewery is in architectural design. They came to the town asking if this is a possibility. They wanted to make sure that that building is something that by our town code is allowed. It is allowed, so they're doing that. There is talk about what exactly he's going to do. It is part of Peekskill Brewery. So what they want to do is bring in a cannery and a brewery with a small pub style, not a restaurant, a pub style area where they can either take food out or limit to the number of people that can come in and sit down. But it's under architectural review right now. The architect is actually making the design inside right now.
Is it the whole,
Yep.
the 12 holes opening day?
They haven't even submitted the architect yet. This is all still under discussion to make sure it's financially feasible for the company, which it should be. They don't believe that this would be a problem for them to build, create, and construct and open. But until they submit their architect review to our department, I can't tell you any more than what I know. It's not I don't know what, it's part of Peekskill Brewery. They're the ones who want to build there.
Does the architectural review include parking spaces?
Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
I'm concerned about lighting all the time, and I really appreciate
We
where I
have a
live. It's
lighting
dark. Will there
law.
be downcast lighting?
We have a lighting law.
I know, but there's no downcast lighting in the lighting law.
We can have our zoning department work on that.
Okay,
Because it's
similar
facing
to
that
what
to come-
happened at
yeah.
Kent, they have the downcast now.
We can work on that with the zoning department. That can definitely be, even though it's not our town law,
Yeah.
they can find a way, especially when they do their public hearings, they can find a way to say, listen, this has been a request, is it feasible? And I can't imagine it wouldn't be.
Thank you.
All right, any update on Verizon? Oh,
I reached out to the New York State Regional. They said that they were working, the storm that we had, that big storm that knocked down half of, Yorktown, did knock down quite a few towers. They're in the process of repairing those towers. Now, just because there's a tower here doesn't mean that, okay, we should have good service. The way the tower is, it's a triangle. So if it can't get to B, then it can't get to C and back up to us. So that's what the problem is. So they're fixing whatever tower that got knocked down. It could have been the C or the D. I'm not sure which one got knocked down, but because of that one storm in Yorktown, it did affect a lot of the Verizon users here in the area.
I just want to say, I just switched to T-Mobile as a test because people I used to talk to say, I can't hear you. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, it's fine. And
Can you hear
they're
me
like,
now?
I can't hear you. And I'm just saying, it seems to be working.
They might be on a separate tower, so they might not be on the
Yeah,
same Verizon
I
tower.
have T-Mobile and have no problem.
Yeah, so it all depends on which tower they're on. They might be on the tower going towards Phillipstown. So that's why it didn't affect you. Where Verizon is almost on every tower. T-Mobile and AT&T are now building up to be on more towers as well. They're trying to get a tower over on, actually two, on Peekskill Hollow Road. So they're working on it, both Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile. So we're hoping to have more towers. But again, doesn't mean we're going to have service just because we are more towers.
But if you're calling from home on Verizon and you have internet, there's a setting, wireless calling. and
Yeah, it tells you, they do
it'll
say,
work all the time.
they did say put it on Wi-Fi calling
Right.
in the meantime. So change your setting to Wi-Fi
Yeah.
calling and it'll help you no matter, where you are right now.
Yeah, but some of these people, instead of using Xfinity, they have this new cable that's coming in with Verizon.
Fios.
And that's what they're using their phone on.
That's still internet. So it'd still be Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh,
it's still
okay.
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah, the Verizon Fios, you're seeing their trucks everywhere. Actually, Optimum's doing the same thing. Basically, everyone's cutting the cord, and they're all going to internet cable. So they're all putting in their optics in there.
They're doing that right now,
They're doing it everywhere.
right here.
There's trucks
Fios?
everywhere. Yeah, it's only for internet. It's only for internet. Yes, it is.
Verizon is fixing that.
But I mean, we don't have Fios here.
Yes, it's happening now. They're installing all the fiber optics now for Verizon. Yeah, for Putnam Valley.
They're right up there.
Good.
Now, again, this is only for internet. It's not, but a lot of people are cutting the cord, which is giving them internet television. Okay? Any other questions?
Jackie, do you have the dam, do you have any ballpark for
About-
what we're talking about?
In regard to the dam?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you heard. The ad for the paper just got approved by the
hear that.
DEC.
But number in terms of how much.
I have no idea what the cost will come in as. Whatever it is, you're going to have to go out to bond because it's going to be a high number. But that's why we're going to put the ad in the paper per DEC requirements. And once we get the approval from the DEC to go out to bid, then we will go out to bid and we'll see what numbers come in as. All right, and if you don't like these numbers, the only other option, which at this point I don't know if it makes sense, is to get another design. But you're going to end up putting another couple $100,000 into redesigning it, the specs or whatever, to see if that even. So it might cost you more to redesign it and then get a lower bid, but you ended up putting more money in to get the redesign and get the approvals from the DEC. So it might end up being the same in the long run. You might end up saving a couple $100,000. But when you're dealing with the millions, a couple $100,000 is nothing anymore, unfortunately. Any other questions? Yes.
General question. Our district code is kind of obsolete. It hasn't really, like the short-term rental code, it hasn't kept up with living in the 21st century. Can that be reviewed and revised?
Are you talking about your district bylaws or the town code?
In the town code, there's a
Okay, there's a
section,
district,
very
there's a
small
district,
section
right,
for
special
Roaring Brook
districts.
Lake. Yeah, and if you look at Ascawana and the other lakes and lakes around us, they have other things that they take into consideration.
All the district has to do is give me a suggestion of what kind of codes they want to update or change. I'm in the process of doing that with Abley regarding, next subject, dead boats. Right now, the courts will not allow us just to remove a dead boat. A dead boat is something that the sticker is old or it looks like it has been abandoned. We have to redefine abandoned according to the courts. What does abandoned mean? Is there a tree growing through it, or is it just because no one's touched it in a month? What is considered abandoned? So we have to redefine that and get that approved by the courts. Once that's approved by the courts, then that's our first big hurdle. The next is for each district. How does each district now remove the boats? Should it be put on the district? Because now the liability falls on you. What if you pulled the wrong boat? Whose liability is it? Does it go to the town? Should the town now enforce all these things? That's an extra financial burden. So now we have to deal with the finances, liability, and enforcement. How does that happen? Removal of it. Removing of it, taking it down, because Scott, we already decided, our town decided that once it does get approved, Sean, our highway superintendent, can crush a lot of them and dump them, which would be no cost to the district and no cost to the town. But the only money that we would get would go back to the town for the cost of the dumpster that it took us to crush it. So that would be, you wouldn't get any of that money back, but you're not also losing any money. But before we get to that part, we got the end result done. We just got to get the middle part, the legal part, liability part, cleared. And once that's cleared and we're able to pass it, there will be a public hearing, and I'm going to try and do it for all lake districts, not just for one district. That's the problem we're having right now. Because some districts, they want to define abandoned as a sticker that hasn't been renewed in 3 years. Some districts want to do it as something, a tree growing through it, and one non-floatable. So so we have to work on that. How do we know it's non-floatable unless someone's removing it from there and putting it in the water? Who's removing it from there and putting it in the water? Who's going to take that liability? So there's a lot regarding it. I wish it was as easy, but government's not easy. No matter how, I'm like, but it's common sense. Well, but there is no common sense in government. There's too much red tape. Right? None. Zero.
Is there a question of?
I have another kind of general question. When Kevin Byrne was here, he was saying that if, as I understood it, any money from the government as a result of the latest packages they passed would, federal packages of aid packages, say, for the country, he preferred that the money come to the county first, not the towns, and that the towns had to submit a list of projects. Does our town have any projects?
Yeah, I did mine. Oh, yeah.
Now, how's it looking?
It's good. So far, I've gotten money for the drainage going on Peekskill Hollow Road. I have money going for the substation that we're going to build on the other side of Peekskill Hollow Road. So I have money going to fix the bridge that's on Bell Hollow Road. So this is money that wouldn't cost the taxpayers anything, but it's $1.6 million I got from the county. Yes.
Out of how much?
1.6 million.
Out of how much?
Out of 1.6 million that they gave me. Out of what was allowed for our community, I got every penny. Because we're the smallest population, and I got every penny because I accounted for all the big projects. We're the only town that applied and got the money. So, yeah, we got the 1.6 million to do these projects that would have raised our taxes by 1.6 million dollars. Because these are things that can't be held off. For example, Bell Hollow Bridge. I don't know if anyone takes Canopus Hollow or takes Bell Hollow Bridge. It's one way in, one way out over there. If that bridge goes down, these people have to go through Fawnstock all the way around through the state park. So that bridge was already red flagged. We already have one of the plates on there. We can't let that happen. The other one is Horton Hollow. Horton Hollow is another huge bridge, and it's a culvert where a lot of the water comes down and it causes a lot of flooding and damage. That bridge was ready to collapse as well. So these things are huge. The substation, which is over at Oregon Corners, that old police station, I got funding to knock it down and make it municipal parking. So once the lawsuit is done with Arbin, the county is going to take down that building for us. I'm going to put a electric car charger there. I'm going to increase our sewer plant down there, and we're going to have a municipal parking down in Oregon Corners to allow the businesses to at least survive somehow. So that will give us about 50 parking spots. So that's all part of that $1.6 million that they gave us. All right. On the July 26th at 5:30, Kevin Byrne and ELQ. ELQ is the new contractors for the bridges, the 3 bridges, the Lover's Lane Bridge, the Peaks Hill Hollow by the school, and Oregon Corners. Those are the new contractors. They're going to come and talk to the residents about the project and what to expect as residents. They're going to meet us at the firehouse at 5:30 on July 26th. It'll be an open forum. I hope you all can join Kevin and ELQ and the town board to discuss the importance of getting this done. Okay? Any other questions? All good? I'm always available by cell. I'm always available by email. I'm always in the office. Please do not hesitate to contact me. All right? Have a
And
great
she
day.
answers. Okay, Dennis, I know you got to do some rounds, so you want to come up and give us an
The
update?
bonding company sided with Harbin because it was too big of a project to side with the county. Harbin would have ended up having to pay $3 million.
Alright, how's everyone doing? As you guys know, this has been the first, or really, we're going into the second month where the beaches have opened. And good news is we haven't had many issues. There hasn't been much blue-green algae. We do have a couple instances. It did happen in Spur once. Yeah. Good news with the beaches over the last month and a half that they've been open is that we haven't had many issues. We have had a couple instances of blue-green algae. However, they've been pretty sparse. So that's been pretty great. The beaches have remained open for the most part. And really the worst perpetrator is Moon Beach. But that's within normality, so to speak. Additionally, we had some great turnout for the last few days, especially during the 4th of July. And luckily we haven't had many issues with outside residents, or for lack of a better word, outside people coming in. I haven't had many issues with that as of late, which has been pretty promising and pretty good for the patrons, residents here that don't really have to deal with any distractions or obstructions due to people trying to take advantage or abuse, the lake rights that we all have here. In addition, a lot of people have been coming to me for new permits, whether car, boat permits, etc. And I would oblige you all to continue to do so, especially if your permits aren't already updated. The best way to contact me is through email at the moment. However, there is a form on the RBL Lake website where you could submit, and eventually that can get to me and we can get that settled through. But any other questions regarding the lake? Sure.
I don't know if this is a question for you, but twice so far on Park Beach, there's like a garbage container, but there's no cans. Is there anything we can do to help with that?
I'm not sure if I could give a good answer. One thing I could say is that it seems like this is supposed to be phased out. So now we have these bins that are supposed to take place for those cans. However, a lot of people don't know that, especially this past 4th of July. The next day I came in, it's just a bunch of garbage in there. People forgot the cans even existed. It's something that me and the lifeguards can move into the garbage cans, but I think it's going to be a matter of changing our perspective, bringing your own bags.
So do we need those bins removed?
Ideally, those wood bins would be removed so people aren't getting confused, because even me, if I didn't know, being the superintendent, and I was just, normal with me the past few years, I would think that's the trash can too. It's been that way for longer than I've been here. So ideally, if that was removed, it would make it more ideal for the patrons here.
I think the cans just need to be, there's no cans in there.
Right, because the garbage will only be picked up in those rolling bins like we all have.
Got it, okay.
And those don't fit in there either.
So there's no purpose in having those bins there except that they attract trash.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They attract
that
trash.
magically appears there.
Yeah,
So
so
we
they're
get
gonna
we
be-
get rid of them.
They're gonna be
That
gotten
just
rid of?
needs to be
Yeah, we'll get rid of
That'd
them.
be ideal, and every beach does have that.
Right.
So, luckily, really park's the only issue. That if you look at the bins in Spur or the bins here, you don't really see as much garbage as would be in Park. But nonetheless, it's still a present issue at all the beaches. So hopefully we can get that addressed sooner
We just write no
rather than
trash.
later. Yeah, maybe just something so people just don't toss their fireworks or drinks or whatever in there.
How about,
That'd be nice.
how about parking? We were all given parking. Is anybody monitoring that? So if you're a resident, you can actually find a place to park when you go down to the beach?
Do you mean monitoring the fact that lack thereof, someone coming in and checking?
Yeah, who's making sure that
Yeah,
who's
so-
using the parking spaces has the little sticker up?
Yeah, so
Because you can go down there and there's cars there and they don't have their stickers up, and you, if you don't want to walk far, or you get down there, you have to go someplace else.
yeah, I think
So I'm wondering who's monitoring, making sure.
so it's a tough balance. Whenever I do my rounds, I do go in and try to take account of the cars there. Luckily, a lot of people will put their little permits right on the
Well,
right on
we
the
got
glass.
them, so you put them up.
Yeah, and the issue is a lot of residents may have a third car, for example, or may not put those in, and I'm not trying to justify those actions, but it makes it a hard decision to, put the foot down and say, let me call a tow truck if I don't see a permit there.
I'm
It's
just wondering how it's regulated then.
really, it's you have to call the sheriff to be more accurate, and they will deal with it from there. I was bringing it to the extreme, but it's
But it's not your job.
yeah, it's not my job
Okay,
to go
was
to
I guess
that.
that was my question.
Really,
How is it being monitored?
all I do is try to
Okay.
monitor. And for example, I dealt with a situation, I would say 2 weeks ago, where some residents, some outside people were coming into the beach, and a car wasn't there without a permit, and people weren't there who didn't live here. And I just addressed them and asked them to leave, and they did so politely. Luckily, in that case, it was addressed promptly. But in other cases, really all I tried to do is monitor. And if I know someone and I could, connect them to a car, I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. For example, if I know a resident that always goes to Spur, they don't have their permit there, but I know they live here, I know they're the resident, I'm not going to make a big deal of a car that doesn't have the permit.
What about people that go to the beaches and have people join them and they don't have permits, since there's so many spaces for cars? Like I tend to go to Spur. I live at the corner of Pudding, and so I take the car. So rather than walk over there. So, but sometimes it's packed with cars, and I don't believe all of the people are. I mean, they may be guests.
They are allowed to have guests.
Yeah.
But the car spaces are kind
Right,
of.
but the car tags can be switched from car to car too.
Yeah.
So
That's true, but but are they being
well.
switched?
Are they bringing like 10 guests or?
4 cars.
4 cars. Yeah,
Four
3
cars.
or 4
cars,
cars.
one
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have. I don't think the regulations state how many guests.
No.
Do
Yeah,
they?
not that I know
But
of.
that with the lifeguard, there's no place to park.
Yeah.
So you just don't go to Spur.
Yeah,
I go.
I don't think there's a limitation. Like as long as these
As
guests,
long as there's a
have
resident
someone-
there
yeah.
with the guests.
Maybe that's
Okay,
something
fine,
that
if
could
that's
be
what-
revisited if we look
Yeah.
at the code in general.
If you go back to my be neighborly kind of thing, it's if you see that you're taking up the entire parking lot, maybe ask some of your guests to carpool. Bring some of the cars back to your property and come back in one car instead of having 4 cars there or something.
Yeah.
That's amazing problem.
Yeah.
yeah, sir, and especially somewhere like Spur that has so little parking and so cramped.
Is it? I mean, I know Spur Road goes the dead end of the circle.
Yep.
Is it legal to park out there and just hug
On the
corner
roadway
of the
itself?
road? Yeah, hug the corner.
Well, there's no parking on any roadway in Putnam Valley.
There is.
The town law does not
Yeah.
permit any on-street parking anywhere in Putnam Valley.
Oh, I thought that was between.
No, well, that's for snow. But if you read the regulations,
Okay.
there is no parking in Putnam Valley on any town road whatsoever, any time of the day or the year.
So technically, if I can't get a spot down there, I've been going up and I kind of park into the bushes.
Yeah, right on the side.
Into the bushes.
I mean, nobody is, if it's not causing a nuisance, like
Yeah.
Jackie was talking earlier about blocking egress for emergency vehicles and stuff, people probably aren't going to say anything. And even if they call the sheriff, the most they're going to do is ask you to move your car.
Yeah.
So,
And at Spur on the driveway, you
Yeah.
could fit like 3 or 4
Okay.
cars.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's just trying to do it wisely, just making sure
Yes.
you're making
Yeah.
a smart
Be
decision. We have
considerate,
people
be
parking-
neighborly.
Yeah, Dave, as
Yeah.
long as you don't bring your big truck.
Oh,
Yeah, as long as you're pushed to the side, I think it's all okay. I mean, a lot of us are parked on the side right now for this
Yeah.
meeting. As
Yeah.
long as you're being
Oh, yeah.
reasonable,
Right.
I think it's within normality.
Yeah.
But
Fine.
it's something to I guess to look into in the future. You know, regarding guests and regarding that being an issue, but it's something to discuss.
It's not a huge problem, but it's occasionally.
Yeah, especially during those busy times of the year, times of the summer.
Yeah, it's just occasionally, and you go down there, and then there's
What
no
happened?
place to turn around, so you have to back.
Is that it? Is the meeting over?
No, we're still.
There's 5 conversations.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. Any other questions?
You're doing a great job, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Closing background noise.
How do we
They're-
make sure
they're
if somebody
being-
wants a beach sticker, they go online?
Yes, you can go online. However, you can also reach me, and I could provide this email out to you all if you'd like. You can reach me at roaringbrookLake.info@gmail.
I was talking about projection before.
Yeah, you can reach me at roaringbrookLake.info@gmail.com.
You've been doing a great job this summer.
Thank you. roaringbrookLake.info@gmail.
Gmail.
I hand it off to you.
Sorry, the meeting on July 19th, where is that for the short-term rentals?
That's at Town Hall.
Town hall.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on to our various committee reports. So, Ina, you want to update us on the lake?
So I think a number of you who are here were at our State of the Lake meeting a couple weeks ago, and that was very successful. We had 19 people in attendance, and the video from that is online now, and you can watch it if you weren't able to be there. If I could summarize briefly, 2022 was a very good year for this lake. I don't think we need a lake manager to tell us. It was clear. We had essentially no closures of beaches. We had very few harmful algal blooms, and most of them were in the spring and fall outside of the swimming season. So it was really a successful year. One of the things that AJ emphasized was that the carp are starting to reach the end of their lifespan, and as they do that, whatever work they're doing to clean up weeds will disappear, and that we should be anticipating that weeds will return, and perhaps even in nuisance amounts. There are things we could do to begin talking now before it's an emergency or dire about what we would want to do to manage that. He went through several of those options. It is going to be up to us. That's always difficult because we all will have contrasting opinions about whether carp are good and whether chemicals are good and many, many things. So, but it's worth beginning to have those conversations because there are a lot of options and we should be looking at them. That's number two. And the last thing is that the lake hasn't looked as good this year. There have been at least 2 closures so far, one on Children's Beach and one on Moon Beach, and those were for harmful algal blooms. That's pretty serious, especially if you have a young child and you're trying to, entertain them and it's a hot day. It's a really distressing thing. There's a lot about harmful algal blooms on the website, so you can go to that and look if you're not sure what that is. And I just hope those are, the last 2 closings and we don't have more this summer, but it's not really a good sign at the very beginning of the year. The final thing is that we are registering the boats as usual. If you've already registered your boat and you have an orange sticker, you're fine. But if you haven't registered your boat, we would like to ask you to look for the hull identification number, which is on every boat, the same as a VIN, V-I-N for a car. And that is to your advantage. If your boat is stolen, if it goes wandering in the lake, which of course never happens, that is a much better identification of your boat than the sticker, which could be removed, or the color of the boat, which could be changed. And so it's really to your advantage to have that HIN on your registration. There was once a time where we would just say, oh, how many tags do you need? I need 4 tags, here you go. We're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore because to know that it's a green kayak is much more useful, and to know what its hull identification number is makes it even more useful. So that's why you'll be filling out a form on the internet. And it will also be a huge help to Dennis if you fill that out on the internet. Now, if somebody's not comfortable using the internet, can't do that, I am sure that he will get on the phone with his computer open and ask the questions and put them in. If you can't find your whole identification number, he probably can help you find it. It's usually on the rear end of the boat, and it should be on every boat that is from, I think, 1975.
It should be on a document that you receive when you purchase the boat as well.
Some people didn't actually purchase their boat. They bought it from somebody else or inherited it.
Thank you, John,
Yeah.
for the boat.
There you go.
Did you give him the paper?
Did you give him the papers?
Yes, yes.
So I just want to thank you, and I hope we have a wonderful year. Yeah, Kathy?
Or how we're going to treat the lake going forward. It occurs to me, looking back at how long it took to finally get a decision and actually order fish from Arkansas and put it in there, we might gain a little time if we start earlier and we extend the agreement with the DEC that we have, rather than deciding 2 years down the road we better go with the carp after all. And again, I don't know what we're going to do, but my experience was getting the carp in there. We possibly might gain a little time and less pain if we can extend something that already exists, rather than starting from scratch and redesigning the whatever. So I really agree with AJ that we just need to start rolling on this and thinking about it, and talking to the DEC to say, okay, what do we have to do this time to do A, B, or C? Okay, that's all. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And AJ agrees with you too.
But about the carp, I think that needs to go out. It should go out to a vote. I mean, the fishing now is finally starting to get better. The fish are getting bigger. And that's because the carp are dying out. And, AJ and everybody will tell you that.
And that's got to be a
And there are alternative methods. Assuming that the major plant that comes back is something called Eurasian milfoil, which I could show you if I reach my hand into the lake because it's all over the place. But that particular plant has a very specific herbicide which does not kill native plants or other plants for that matter. And so one option would be to use, and it very quickly, it's broken down very quickly, and it could be used in the spring before the swimming season starts. That is also a difficult decision that many people will have difficulties with, so it needs to be discussed. But that is a decision. There are other possibilities. They tend to be extraordinarily expensive, like having divers go down and remove each plant, having something called benthic barriers, which is big black plastic mats placed in all the areas of the lake that are under 8 feet. These are very expensive and difficult methods, but we can talk about all of them.
Right, and things have changed since the first time we put the carp in, especially the septic law.
Yes.
So, and you notifying everybody about fertilizer, I know that's been getting out there. So I would, personally, I would recommend let the carp die out and see what happens in the next couple of years. They're big eaters. If the weeds start popping up, you can dump whatever, 50, 100, whatever it is, and I'm sure they'll consume all the weeds.
Yeah, we also could look at putting, as Tommy said, we could put a very tiny amount. We put 500 carp in last time. We could put in 50 carp so that we do it. And AJ suggests that we could use the carp little by little. But honestly, I think his feeling was that if we don't give a good look at the selective herbicide, we're not doing ourselves a favor. He's seen many communities go through many years of debate on that and then finally get to that point, and he feels like it's something that people should talk about ahead of time.
I appreciate everything that AJ's doing, and I do go to the lake meetings when I can. I just would like to make sure I don't miss any, and I know what's going on, and I'm kept abreast of all the decisions that are being made. And they're made before he gives a talk a lot of the time. So is there a way to
I'm sorry. What
about
decisions?
like decisions that you're talking about right now?
We're not making any decisions.
No, I know.
Decision about
just wanted to
handling
be
the weeds is going to be a big community decision.
Okay.
There will be, he has gotten used to us as a community. We've gotten used to him. I think he's fantastic. I hope other people think that too. He's devoting an enormous amount of time to us. He did the formal presentation in June. He'll be meeting with us September. I think it's September 26th or 23rd.
Whatever that Saturday is.
It's the Saturday in the end of September, and that's a really useful. He doesn't come in with any speech. He just comes and says, who has a question? And he'll answer questions and have a conversation with us right here at Roaring Brook Lake.
So
you
when
don't have
decisions
to
are
go
made,
there.
we'll know about the whole process.
Look, communication is always tricky. I'm not the president. I cannot promise you that you will get everything communicated to you because it can be tricky, but there are things that are clearly major decisions and they are always going to be discussed, like a management of weeds. If we were to think about changing the septic pump out rule from 5 to 3, which I do agree with, it is the standard of care for watershed management as opposed to human health, and it is done in the entire New York City watershed. It's done in the Delaware water basin, which is a huge area which includes many, many states and communities.
For another time.
Another time. All right.
Okay.
Okay, soapbox.
So all of these are being recorded. All of the meetings since I've been president have been recorded. They are on the website. So if anybody wants to go back and see any of these meetings, any of the meetings that the town board holds, we link to them on our website, but they're also on the town board website as well. So I encourage everybody, if you can't make the meetings, listen to the videos that are posted there.
I tried to look. Could you show us how to do that? I looked on the Roaring Brook. Thank you.
Yep. So please, we're trying to encourage the use of the website. We find that there's very little traffic going to it, and the communication team that we have put together is not spending a lot of time on the website because there's nobody going to the website. So, in order to get people to increase the content, we need to increase the membership, the traffic to it. So please, go there and say hello. And yeah, Bobby.
Remind everybody of the name of the website.
Sure. It's
RBLPOA.com.
Yes.
I believe we also own RoaringBrookLake.com, and you can get to it from either place.
Okay, it's on the newsletters that we put out. We try to get these newsletters out monthly, at least monthly during the summertime, and a couple times during the year on the off season. So please, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletters, if you haven't gotten the message about today's meeting, I assume that you're here, so you know. But please subscribe to the newsletter on the website. There's a link. Another link that's on there is your dues. If you haven't paid your dues, please pay your dues. When we have our elections in the end of September, only dues paying members are allowed to vote. So please vote, and please help with the operations of the organization. Beach committee. So as far as the beach goes, you heard about the pathway. I think that's a big progress that we had there. This pathway has been giving us headaches forever. So I think we finally now have a solution that will last for a decent amount of time, and it includes a solution to the water once it gets down to the roadway, that it'll be taken care of as well, so that's good. We're also going to be fixing up the shed here at the top of the pathway here, so that we can store our stuff in it and make sure that it's a little more weather tight. As far as the roadways go, I've been in touch with Sean. There's been requests for restriping the stop signs. There's requests that there's missing street signs. There is requests for across from the brewery. People are parking over there, and that's compacting the dirt that's in the wetland area. So we want to put up no parking signs over there. Somebody suggested boulders, but Sean said he can't put boulders or anything there other than guardrail, because that creates a hazard. You know, you put a rock in the side of the road and somebody slides into it. Now, you know, the town is at fault for that. Yes.
About guardrail, if we put guardrail around the lake, could we have the rusty guardrail? Not
The rusty I think they stopped using rusty guardrail.
They don't make it anymore.
Because
It's like a
it was
special
actually
order.
rotting from the inside out, and when people would hit it, it would just disintegrate and not do its job. So that's why you saw them replace it all. It was nice because it had a more rustic look. I don't personally think guardrail over there would be it'd be an eyesore, I think. So somebody suggested that we put salt-resistant bushes along the way there.
Planters with
Hedges.
trees in them, I mean flowers.
Planters are another hazard kind of thing. Yeah,
Hedges, tall
anything there that wasn't designed for safety, like a guardrail, wouldn't be allowed. Hedges you can run into and they're not going to cause a problem. So I haven't talked to Sean about the bushes because that suggestion just came up, but I'll see what he says about that.
You can also do a wood guide rail.
Wood, yeah.
Park-like.
Yeah.
Looks like a park.
Oh,
Yeah. So we'll see what. That's another good example.
It
Okay.
is. I like the bushes personally.
Yeah,
I like
bushes
the
I think would be
natural.
nice.
And you're not going to park on top of bush. You know.
But
Right.
they shouldn't be so high that you can't see
See
the
the
wetland,
right.
because that's really beautiful.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But we just want to make sure that they don't compact all that soil that's there, because that's the whole purpose of the wetland.
I just want to say, I just love all the native trees that are there and along the entrance and exit ramps.
That was all by design.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know people had a lot to do with that
So
here.
any of the bushes that we do
Yeah.
suggest will be native bushes. They will not be invasive.
And I wish we could have done something like that here too.
Like-
You know, like carry it through in the community when we have any plantings to make sure we have native trees and native shrubs. You know, birds and bees, they're really having a very, very difficult time right now. And the more we can have native species, it's so much better for the earth and it's so much better for the drainage. Oak trees do so much more for our soil. They keep weed
I
down.
don't believe we have
You know?
planted any plantings except for those 3 trees
Yeah.
there. We haven't, anything that's grown is actually,
I'm just saying
naturally.
that if we carry it through, because I just noticed this.
yeah.
But if we do any plantings around the area, that they would
Yeah.
be native and not non-native. And
Yeah.
I don't know what we can do about all the non-native trees along the roadside.
Look right behind you. That's one of the most invasive non-native trees.
Is there anything we can do with that all along the roadside? Because they come into the
You know, as soon as you
properties.
want to start cutting stuff, like I would personally love to get rid of this.
Oh, that's an important native
That's a
cherry.
native
That,
You
I
wanna
know,
get rid
but
of
it,
that.
it grew out of,
A stump.
Yeah,
There was
exactly.
one there before, it got cut down, and that's
but
what
now
they do.
once it becomes really big, we're never going to be able to cut it, and now it's going to block our
Oh,
access
we
to
can
the
trim
rest.
that. I'll trim
Yeah. But in any case, once you start talking about that, you get into all these things, just like pumping 3 years or 5 years or whatever. So, topic for a different day.
Okay.
Uh,
Bring it up.
yeah.
Where can I bring it up?
Listen, this is district property. I would talk to the district manager, Judy, down at Town Hall.
About
Karen.
native.
Yeah, Karen. Judy.
Karen.
Why did I say Judy?
She used to be.
Judy, right? Okay. All right, great. All right, so that's the beach, the roads. Special events. So we have the regatta coming up on July 29th, right here. starting, I guess the bicycle races start a little earlier in the morning. The regatta itself starts around noon. I hope everybody will come to that. Bring your families and your friends. We'll have food available, and we'll send out more information via the newsletters on that. We have the 5K coming back this year again, sponsored by the, I guess, Westchester Roadrunners, I believe is the sponsors of that. But that'll be on September 3rd. It said September 5th in the newsletter. That was a typo, but it is Sunday, September 3rd. That'll start at 9 a.m. So if you're a runner and you want to participate in that, Leslie, who had to leave, has information on that. But we'll post anything that they give us. So far they haven't given us any information as far as links, but if they do, we'll post them as well. So if you're a runner and you want to run, please do. If not, just mark your calendars that there'll be runners on the roadway in the morning of September 3rd, so just be careful about using your vehicles that time of the day. Jackie already mentioned the 2 dates for the budget hearings. We moved our meetings around so that we don't conflict. You know, we're usually running from one meeting to another. So this way we changed the date so that we'll be able to attend both meetings without a lot of inconvenience. We have the hearing on the short-term rentals. Don't forget about that one. Anybody remember that date? 19th of July, right? Right, so 19th of July is the town board meeting down at Town Hall. Any other events that anybody else knows of that I left out?
I just want to kick back to the announcements of these meetings. I really miss, because I come up on Friday, I leave on Monday. I miss at the entrance the little sign that says there's a meeting.
Sure.
A couple of the meetings I just missed altogether. I am on the Roaring Brook Lake mailing list, but I get a gazillion things, and you know, when you get a gazillion, you don't look at them until 5 days later.
Right.
And just those two, basically it's only needed in 2 places.
Right.
Is as you enter from the Taconic, and maybe if you're coming up the back way to Pudding, there's another one. It's two little signs, meeting.
We have those, I think. Somebody still have them? Dennis has them?
If it could be done, it makes it easy. I didn't know until I saw Bobby today that there was a meeting.
Okay.
Bobby was driving, and they were doing the wires.
Okay.
All right. Wires. And she said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I'm going to the meeting." I said, "Oh, it's today?"
Yeah.
So here I am.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, we can put those out. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. What other announcements do we have? Yes.
I just have a question. I brought my checkbook to pay my dues.
Okay.
Who would I give that to? Today? Is that
We don't
possible?
really take a check anymore.
You don't?
No, you can do it online through the through the website.
All right.
Okay, that way it's through PayPal. It's just much easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that setting, you can set it for annually, and it'll
Auto pay.
auto pay, and just set it and forget it. There are a few people that have gone on pause, I think, so maybe if you have your account on pause, that unpause it or whatever, and take care of that as well. Anybody else have any comments or questions? What's that?
So what are we having for lunch?
What are we having for lunch? Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, if that brewery opens, we can maybe have the meetings there. That would be all right. So our next meeting is what are we in? August 23rd. Okay, it was in the newsletter. It's in August. We're going to have the county sheriff here. So if you have any concerns about law enforcement around the lake, please make sure you attend and ask him directly. All right.